News. It's time now for the World Brief and a review of some of the headlines from today's newspapers. First, let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, world leaders have condemned videos of starving Israeli hostages in Gaza filmed and shared by Hamas. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad published video of Rom Braslavsky, who was thin and crying last Thursday, and then Hamas released footage of an emaciated Eviatar David on Saturday. Now, Israeli leaders accused Hamas of starving hostages, but Hamas denied it intentionally is starving prisoners, saying that the hostages eat what their fighters eat and what people in Gaza eat, which is close to nothing, amid a hunger crisis in Gaza. Now, they are among 49 hostages out of the 251 who were originally taken, who Israel says are still being held in Gaza. This does include the 27 hostages who are believed to have been killed. After the videos were released, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called for the Red Cross in the region to allow his request to be immediately involved in the providing of food and medical care to hostages. Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir prayed at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem, violating a decades-old arrangement covering one of the most sensitive sites in the Middle East. Now, Ben-Gvir was filmed leading Jewish prayers at the site, which is known by Jews as the Temple Mount in occupied East Jerusalem. Praying at the site breaks a long-time arrangement that allows Jews to visit the site but not pray. It was captured by Israel from Jordan in the 1967 Middle East War. Now, under the status quo agreement, Jordan was allowed to continue its historical role as the custodian of the site, while Israel had control of security and access. The site is the holiest place for Jews because it was the site of two biblical temples. It's the third holiest place for Muslims, though, who believe that it's where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ascended to heaven. Now, Jordan called Ben-Gvir's latest visit an unacceptable provocation. Hamas says it's deepening of the ongoing aggressions against the Palestinian people, while Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said the visit crossed all red lines. Now, Israel's Prime Minister says the move, however, doesn't change the status quo agreement. Finally, Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch says that she does not have a Nigerian passport and no longer identifies as Nigerian. Now, she made those comments during an interview on the Rosebud podcast with Giles Brandreth. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Are you still Nigerian and British? You have passports for both countries? Or?
I have not renewed my Nigerian passport. I think not since the early 2000s. It's just, I don't identify with it anymore. Most of my life has been in the UK, and I just never felt a need to. So when I go there, when my dad died, I had to get a visa to go to Nigeria, which is all a big fandango. And because I am Nigerian through ancestry by birth, despite not being born there, because of my parents, yes, I am. But by identity, I'm not really. I know the country very well. I have a lot of family there, and I'm very interested in what happens there. But home is where my now family is. And my now family is my children, it's my husband, my brother and his children, and, in-laws. And the Conservative Party is very much part of my family.
Well, as we know, despite being born in Wimbledon, southwest London, 45-year-old Kemi Badenoch was raised in Nigeria until she was 16 years old. And she shares her experience of Nigeria's education system and how it shaped her political outlook, including why she doesn't actually like socialism. Let's take a listen to what she had to say about education.
I went to the school that I spent most of my time in, which was a Church of England school called St. Saviour's in a place called Ebute Metta, which is a railway compound. And that's where primary school was. So I was moving around quite a bit. I went to a secondary school. It was called a federal government girls' school in a place called Shagamu. And that was like being in prison. When I tell the stories about using a machete and having, because I know lawnmowers, that's the place that I'm talking about, having to fetch fetch buckets of water. And that was the first time that I was away from home, away from my family.
This is a boarding school?
Yes, it's a federal boarding school. And it was
You shared a dormitory with other girls?
There were 300 of us in my dormitory, 20 to 30 in a room.
And the machete is for cutting the grass?
Yes, cutting the grass.
Explain why were you cutting the grass?
Well, because who else is going to cut the grass? And it was like Lord of the Flies. You know, the students were in control. We needed to look after the school grounds. So using a machete, having to clean toilets with no running water. I'm not going to go into the description of that, but it is very, very very grotty. And so that was when I talk about the hardship, it's often being in that school.
Well, it was an hour-long interview on that podcast where she talks about her personal life, relations with her family. She talks about her Muslim and Christian family background, as well as the risks of online indoctrination, citing the example. She had a cousin who committed suicide, unfortunately, over environmental reasons. But it is a portion about Nigeria, what she had to say about Nigeria that sparked the most controversy. I thought it was important to try and put as much context as possible because, you know, when these things happen, as I said, she was speaking for an hour. That's how long the podcast episode was, but it's just two clips that have gone viral. I obviously listened to the whole thing just to see if there was a bit more context that could be added, just to make sure that we are being fair and balanced to Kemi Badenoch. Let it not be that she just gets flogged on this table when her matter is discussed. But there wasn't much positive that she had to say about Nigeria. She did say that, of course, that she continues to be interested in the country and interested in what happens there. But as we heard her say, her passport has expired. She hasn't renewed it, and she also admits that she is a Nigerian because her parents are citizens, which would make her children citizens, but that's neither here nor there. What would you like to think? What do you guys think?
You know, it's so interesting with Kemi Badenoch that unless she talks about Nigeria, she doesn't make the headlines. I think she's realized that the only way for her to really stay in the news is for her to speak on Nigeria and to do so in a denigrating way, and that keeps her at the top of the news cycle, which is sad and unfortunate that she has to play that card. But this is what she has chosen for herself. Now, speaking on the education system, I was quite, shall I say, intrigued by her comments around it because I've attended boarding school both in the UK and in Africa, right? So yes, we can speak to the differences. Let's speak to the differences in ideology and in how we raise our society and our communities here in Africa. We have a disciplinarian approach as Africans. We believe in structure. We believe in work ethic, and we believe that our children should be trained from a very young age to be able to care for themselves and their communities. Yes, she rightfully spoke on socialism, which is, especially at the time she was in school, we were coming out of colonialization, and a lot of the movements that liberated us from the colonialists were socially based. And what was that? That was the idea that everybody has to come together to be a part of making sure that our society is a better place. Now, I'm not sure where in the books that is a bad value to teach children. Now, let's compare it with what happens in the UK, where it's more of a laissez-faire system. Do what you will when you want to. They may report to your parents. It's up to your parents to discipline you. The school generally, the boarding school I went to, didn't get too involved when it came to disciplining children. So what did we have? We had, at the age of 13, people exposed to drinking, to smoking, to all sorts of other things. And this used to happen on the school grounds with limited consequence. So I'm not saying this doesn't happen in African schools, but what I'm saying is that with limited consequence. You could get away with it very easily because culturally speaking, it was, let them do what they want. So I think for us to now look down on how we're trying to build our moral fabric here in Africa as a society by creating and raising disciplined children who are committed to the betterment and the upkeep and the welfare of their environment, I think it's very tragic. And it also speaks to her character in her inability to say, well, I grew up in harsh conditions. So many other Nigerians are saying, I want to come back and fix it. Yes, there are some harsh conditions, one or two things that are not positive. But you know what? I'm going to dedicate my life to trying to make Nigeria a better place because I got a chance to do better. But no, hers is, I'm done with you people, please don't stain my whites. I'm now British, which is so unfortunate, very, very unfortunate.
Dr. Rubin.
Okay, let's deal with Kemi Badenoch first. I think that, look, she needs to stop embarrassing Nigeria. She needs to stop demarketing Nigeria. She says, well, she's no longer identifying with Nigeria Nigeria is her ancestry, but she has not renewed her Nigerian passport. We are over 200 million in this country. We are not looking for more people. We have dual nationality. Whoever does not want to be part of us can stay where they want to stay. But we are proud of people like Toby Amushon, people like Victoria Macaulay, people like Amy Okonkwo, people like Ezinne Kalu, who are, projecting Nigeria and doing us well, either in football or in basketball. So if you have one daughter, a prodigal daughter, called Kemi Badenoch, who says she doesn't want to identify with you people, okay, it's fine. You have all kinds of children. After all, Yorubas have a saying that you can have a child who describes the road to her father's house with the left hand. Kemi Badenoch falls into that category. And the Adegoke family should be thoroughly embarrassed that they have produced a daughter who is describing her father's house with the left hand. But whatever her ambitions are, fine. Now, there's a group in the UK that has now gone to the UK Parliament to say, please, they have to restrain Kemi Badenoch from demarketing Nigeria, from disgracing Nigeria with misinformation, with misdirection, and that she cannot be an honorable member of Parliament, and she'll be telling lies against another country. She has done so on CNN with, what's the name of this author?
Was it Farid?
What name did you mention now?
Oh, on
Farid. With Farid Zakaria.
CNN, and
now
the
she has
Rosebud.
gone to a podcast over the weekend to say the same thing. Everywhere, every opportunity, she's condemning Nigeria. She doesn't need us. We too don't need her. Now, as to the lies, she was saying they were carrying machete in federal government girls' college. No, nobody carries machete in any school in Nigeria. It's called cutlass.
Yes.
Cutlass.
But
And it was part of...
In fairness, Doctor, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it could be just like a translational thing, because if you say, I just feel as though perhaps if you say cutlass outside of Nigeria, would they understand what cutlass means?
Cutlass is different from machete.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But I'm just thinking perhaps
Machete
it was just...
is a weapon of aggression. A cutlass, you cut grass.
Yes.
When we were growing up, you cut the grass, you will have blisters on your hands. Our teacher saw it as a way of disciplining the child. She said she attended a school in Ebute Metta,
yes, exactly.
and she's also not proud of that. Look, and that in FGGC Shagamu, you had about 30 students in a room and all that. We went through it. Even at the university level, some of us stayed in a room with 16 students. We are here, and we are still proud of this country. Look, she must be told, number 3, that the Constitution of Nigeria, Chapter 3, I think Section 25, talks about, how you can become a citizen, how you can renounce your citizenship. She may say she has not renewed her passport. She is still a Nigerian citizen. She's 45 years old. The only way she can deny Nigeria is to do a formal renunciation of her citizenship. That is her choice. She's free to do it. And the Adegoke family should call their daughter to order to stop embarrassing this country. Let her go and formally renounce her citizenship. And when she becomes prime minister, as she hopes she will, let her tell us she's no longer Nigerian, but she must renounce her citizenship first. Black skin, white mask. Let us see whether the British will allow a thoroughly black person in and out to become the prime minister of Great Britain. Okay. After all, they allowed an Indian, Rishi Sunak. Maybe she wants to be the next person.
Why not?
As for Israel, let's leave our daughter's problem alone. She's 45 years old. She's old enough to do what is right. To talk about Israel and Gaza, well, I think between Israel and Hamas, what we're having now is a psychological warfare. This also should be seen within the context of the proposed ceasefire. Now, the countries in Europe, EU, Hungary, UK, France, they've all said, oh, that video by Hamas is in bad taste, is sickening. That's the word that David Lammy used. Okay, fine. But what Hamas is trying to do is to say, look, you are aggressive towards our people. You don't want us to have aid. You don't want us to have food. You are disrupting everything. You are controlling everything. Okay, even your own hostages who are in our care, this is their condition. Because you don't give us aid, your people too cannot get food. So that's why it's tit for tat, it's psychological warfare. Now Israel now has been put under pressure. And Israel is saying, well, Red Cross, please come to our aid. And Red Cross is saying, okay, if you want access to the hostages, but Hamas is saying, no problem. You can have access to the hostages. Yeah. The ones who are still surviving amongst them, but you must also allow people to have unrestricted access to food and water. So it's psychological warfare. As for the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the holiest sites for the Jewish and also for the Arabs, the third holiest site. The Jews will link it to King Solomon. They will link it to, their history. The Muslims will link it to, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's called the Qibli, either the Qibli Mosque or the Qibli whatever. Agreed. But since the Six-Day War of 1967, the Israelis took control of it in terms of security. The Jordanians, because Jordan was in charge of it originally, and it was controlled by the Jerusalem Islamic group. And now, you have Ben-Gvir going there to pray. Part of the agreement was that Jews will not go there to pray. They could be in charge of security, but Ben-Gvir has violated that. He went, and that is why Jordan is saying this is an act of provocation. Agreed. So what does Israel want? Israel wants further escalation of crisis in the Middle East. That is where the problem lies. They have caused problem with Iran. They have issues with Hamas in Palestine. They have issues now over the old mosque in East Jerusalem, in Old Jerusalem. And Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, that had not been part of the problem, is also now saying they are being provoked. So they are expanding the space for conflict. I think that the world should talk to Israel to stop this unrelenting acts of provocation, opening theaters of war here and there.
Agreed. Well, thank you both. Let's take a look at our papers. As ever, the front page of This Day has a multitude of stories, but it does lead with the opposition coalition, the African Democratic Congress, condemning the president's plan to spend over 712 billion naira on the renovation of Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, which is something that we have already discussed at length on the table. We also know that the First Lady and the President, they've both, of course, congratulated the Nigerians women's basketball team for their 7th total and 5th consecutive time winning the AfroBasket tournament. They beat Mali 78-64. And the good news does continue as This Day felicitates chairman of BUA Group, Abdul Samad Rabiu, who turns 65 today. And as we look ahead to 2027, Enugu patriots have endorsed Governor Mba, saying that he is the only viable political candidate in the state. Also on This Day is Peter Obi reaffirming that he'll only serve one term if he is elected president. Now, speaking of that one-term promise, the Leadership newspaper says that the Arewa Consultative Forum says that Peter Obi saying that he'll only serve one term if elected is political strategy. They don't believe it. Now, the New Telegraph, however, it does report on the prospect of the African Union maybe giving Nigeria and South Africa and other African countries the tacit approval to take stiffer actions against US businesses in Africa. This is, of course, in the aftermath of these Trump tariffs coming into effect. It's politics on the front page of The Punch, as its headline says the APC kingmakers are screaming to quell the uprising in their respective states. States in questions are Lagos, Rivers, Benue, and Bayelsa. The Inquirer this morning reports on the exam malpractice amnesty policy rocking the Yakubu Yakubu Gowon University, also known as the University of Abuja, alumni say that the forgiveness of students cheating in exams for financial gain compromises academic integrity. Now, among the many stories on the front page of The Guardian, there's also news of tensions building in the NNPCL. That's as the boss of the NNPCL, Bayo Julari, is dealing with reforms and power struggles and how they have split stakeholders within the organization. And finally, the Vanguard says the soaring cost of drugs alongside medical ignorance is fueling hypertension-related deaths in Nigeria.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Adefemi. I think we're able to touch on a lot of issues. Unfortunately, we don't have time.
No, I wanted to say something. Okay. First, to congratulate Malam Samad Rabiu, yes, who is 65 today. One of those diamonds that we talk about, you know, who believe in Nigeria, who invest in Nigeria, who do not condemn Nigeria, who create jobs. It's like these entrepreneurs, they are the ones moving this country forward. So happy birthday to him. And it's just as well that this day newspaper is congratulating him today. The other person to congratulate is Chief Dr. Patrick Dele-Cole, former Principal Secretary, State House, former Managing Director of Daily Times, former Ambassador to Brazil, author, historian, distinguished citizen, former, he's still there, consultant to the Guardian editorial board, who is 85 today. He had a party on Saturday in Abuja. I couldn't make it, but we'd like to congratulate Dr. Patrick Cole, who is 85 today, the father of Tonyen Cole. He has, in addition, given us Tonyen Cole. Congratulations, sir, and happy birthday.
Fantastic. Many happy returns to all those celebrating.